Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel BandysBooks, and today I am here with a quarter of the year update. I'm going to talk first about some of my goals with this channel and some updates for my channel, and then we're going to go briefly into some reading statistics and my goals for my reading for the next quarter of the year. So first of all, before I get started, thank you so much for everyone that has supported my channel and followed along with me in this journey so far this year. I can't believe how many videos we've gotten up this year and all the feedback I've been getting. It has been so nice to make so many new friends. I'm really grateful for everyone, and I just wanted to start with that. So I have 3 goals for this channel going into the second quarter of this year. Goal number 1 is to continue to post consistently. I think I did pretty well with that throughout the first 3 months of the year. I know that this month has been a little bit hit and miss. I've still tried to post pretty consistently, but there's been a couple weeks where I've just had like insane workloads or different things that have just shaken up the schedule a tiny bit. But going forward, I'm looking to stay as consistent as possible. Goal number 2 for me is to collaborate with more booktubers. I've had the great fortune this year so far to get to collaborate with a handful of really cool accounts, and it was a lot of fun for me. So going forward into the next quarter, my goal is to try and reach out to more accounts and collaborate. So if you yourself are watching this and you're interested in doing a collaboration video, shoot me an email. My email is in the description of all of my videos. I would love to hear your ideas for the collaborations, and I'm really open to doing a lot of different things. And goal number 3 for me is to participate in more readathons. I honestly didn't really participate in readathons before because I just didn't know where to start. There's so many cool ones on BookTube and it just felt overwhelming. But this year I have participated in a couple, actually a couple a month for the last few months, and it's been so much fun. I'm actually hosting my first readathon this month, and I've been really enjoying that too. So I'm looking forward to getting involved with more readathons as the year progresses. And then a couple of things that I think I'm going to be working on for the channel. I've been testing out a Thursday talk about it type of video where I just pick a random subject to discuss, and that seems to be working out really well, both for me and it seems like for viewers. I personally really enjoy like deep diving on topics, and especially topics that like are kind of controversial or that are specific to like BookTube. So I've been enjoying creating those videos, but I also have been really enjoying the amount of feedback that they provoke. I seem to get more comments on those type of videos than any video that I publish, which is a lot of fun to read people's opinions and things. So I'm going to be making that a regular feature on my channel. That's going to be staying on Thursdays. It's going to be a regular series. The next 3 talk about it topic videos are actually going to be inspired by several booktubers that I follow and a couple discussions that they've had, where it's not exactly an answer to what they had to say, but it's kind of a tangentially related topic. And then the other update I have is that I'm really trying to push myself to get into some shorts this quarter. I've been telling myself since the beginning of the year that I wanted to do shorts. It just seems so overwhelming, honestly, creating long form videos and then trying to figure out short content on top of it. But I do feel like it's something that I really need to just kind of step out of my comfort zone and do. So I'm setting myself a challenge. I want to create a 1-minute short book review of every single book that I read this year. Now, obviously I'm starting a bit late. I've already read quite a few books this year, so I have a lot of catching up to do. But I figure that if I give myself a good amount of time to shoot all of these little shorts, I can load them and just let them kind of cycle through as we go through the year. So hopefully I'll be posting some short content coming up soon, and hopefully I'll be consistent with that short content. I feel like it's one of those things that seems very intimidating to me, but hopefully once I get myself into it, just kind of plunge into the deep end, it'll just come together. Now into the actual reading portion of this video. So I'm going to go over some stats, and then I'm going to talk about my reading goals. We're just going to keep it a little bit light because tomorrow's video is also going to be about quarter year update. It's going to be the quarter year update tag. And so I don't want to basically repeat myself from this video to the next. So far in 2023, I've read about 77 books. That equals about 28,272 pages read so far. I'm very happy with that number. I didn't expect to be quite this far along in the month, and I actually have a feeling that I'll be hitting like 100 by the end of the month. For the length of the books that I'm reading, 28% were below the 300 page mark, 68% were between 300 to 500 pages, and just 9% were above 500 pages. So I definitely have a comfort zone in my reading. It tends to be that I read books that are about 370 pages typically. So now let's talk about my fiction to nonfiction breakdown. I have a 96% at fiction and a 4% at nonfiction. I'm not really that happy with that. I know that I tend to read a little bit more nonfiction towards the end of the year just because of a couple of things that are going on at the end of the year. But I still feel like I should be doing better. My goal is to read about 20% nonfiction, and so I've got quite a ways to go. So I am going to be making a concerted effort going forward to read a little bit more nonfiction each month. My top 10 genres were literary fiction, contemporary fiction, historical fiction, fantasy, young adult, and mystery. Thrillers, LGBTQIA+, classics, and horror. I was so surprised to see classics on this list, as I am not at all a classics reader. And so far my average rating for the year is 3.82. That said, that's a little bit behind because while I have marked all the books that I have read so far this year, I haven't actually gone through and rated all of them and written reviews yet. So I think my numbers are a little bit skewed. It might actually be a little bit higher than that, but I won't know, of course, until I get all of the reviews put in. So I'm gonna now give you 5 books that I really loved and 5 books that were like my least faves. And I'm not gonna put them in any specific order, they're just randomized. Tomorrow, one of the questions is like my least favorite and my favorite for the year, so I'll pick out my absolute favorite and my absolute least favorite in that video tomorrow. This is just kind of a general grouping. So far, my favorites for the year have been As Long as the Lemon Tree Grows by Zulfa Katua. This I just finished like a couple days ago, so it's fresh in my head. But the emotional impact of this book, it was such a hard book, so sad. I haven't felt as emotional about a book as I have about this one in such a long time. Then The Vegetarian by Han Kang. This was one that I feel like I raved about a lot last month. I have an entire review of this book if you want to look it up here. This was a book I had no expectations for. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It had a lot of very strong messaging. The more I think about the book, the more I find more messaging. It's just something that definitely sent my mind spinning. And then I had The Mountains Sing by Nguyen Phan Ke Mai. This is historical fiction set in Vietnam, shows the impact of the Vietnam War, colonization, and a whole bunch more. Such a brutal book, but so beautifully written and about a really important topic. And then we have Yellow Wife by Sadiqa Johnson, also a really brutal book. This is about a woman who is the daughter of a slave owner and a slave. She's kind of stuck in a middle ground because she is lighter than most of the slaves in complexion, but she's also not white either. And so she gets stuck in this weird middle place. And it follows her life after she's sold away from the plantation that she was living on. And it's just brutal and depressing, but it's also very historically accurate. And of course, I have The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I feel like this list would not be complete without that. I've been raving about this one. I also have a full-scale review of this one up here, but if you like a fantasy about a badass female pirate, you're probably gonna enjoy this one. And so far, my least favorites of the year have been Trust Exercise by Susan Choi. This was an experimental fiction, and for me, the experiment didn't work. I'm sure other people appreciate the way that it was written, the experimental format of it. For me, it felt very tedious. It took like 75% of the book to get to the 25% of the book that was interesting, and by then I didn't care. I don't know, this might be for some people. It definitely wasn't for me. I have a full-scale review of it up here if you want to hear about it in more detail. And then 50 Words for Rain. This was a shocker for me. It's a historical fiction, has a whole bunch of stuff that sounded like things that I would like, but I ended up feeling like this was just trauma porn. It was a book where we have a character where the author is just like, let me see how many horrific things I can do to this character and keep people reading. The only saving grace for this book, in my opinion, was that the author writes very beautifully. The prose was stunning. That said, there's no amount of beautiful prose that can make up for all of the horrific things that were done to this character. It was just too much, in my opinion. And then we had The House of Cotton by Monica Brashears. This just came out. I read an ARC of this. It wasn't for me. I appreciated the attempt to do something different. It's a lot of dark humor and there's a lot of social commentary, but for me, I feel like some of the strangeness of the story took away from the messaging and the social commentary. I feel like it was a little bit cringy, and I mean, it's supposed to be cringy, but just not cringy in the right way for me. It didn't work. I didn't connect with it in the way that I wanted to. I don't think it was that bad of a book. Like, I'm not trying to trash it. And Pond by Claire Louise Bennett. This is a short book, but it's a book about nothing. It is literally a woman's inner dialogue as she goes throughout her day and just thinking about all the different things in her life. The book felt pointless. I thought that at some point this monologue would like get to a point we would get somewhere with it, and we never really do. It's just this woman and her thoughts, and her thoughts are pretty like useless. I don't really understand the point of the book or what the intent of the author was revolving around this book. Suffice it to say, this one just did not work for me. So those are some basic statistics about my reading so far this year. I'm feeling pretty happy with my reading overall. I have found some really, really good books. So now, finally, the goals for reading for the rest of the year. As I mentioned, one goal is going to be to read more nonfiction. I want to get my nonfiction percentage up to 20%. I do feel that nonfiction is incredibly important for me. I always try to learn and challenge myself, and I think nonfiction is a great way to do that. I like to pick different subjects and read up on them and learn as much as I can. So I will be making a more concerted effort to incorporate more nonfiction in each of my TBRs each month. I also want to continue to make a further effort to diversify my reading. This is always a goal on my channel, and it has been since I started this channel, is to read diversely. Even with intentionally setting diverse TBRs, I have realized that I have blind spots. I have noticed, for example, that I rarely read books with characters that have disabilities. I noticed with Trans Girl April, when I started reading this month and figuring out what books to put on my TBR, that like, yes, I have read books by trans authors, but not enough. Very, very few in comparison. I definitely could make strides in reading books in different age categories. I feel like most of the authors I read and most of the characters I read are in a similar age group, and I could definitely read a little bit outside of that. I also have noticed that there are a lot of specific regions that most of the books I've read tend to be from. For example, I've noticed that like I read a lot of African literature, but the majority of books that I've read come from either Nigeria or Ghana. So I would like to expand and read books from other countries. I've noticed that, you know, there are a lot of really Eurocentric books on my TBR and American-centric books. I would like to definitely read more literature from South America, especially because I read in Spanish, so I really have no excuse there. It's not like I can be like, oh, there's just not a lot that gets translated. Like, I can literally read that language. So I'm definitely going to be making more of an effort to read South American authors. And then one of my other goals is going to be to read at least 50 books off of my shelves. So you see these big, beautiful shelves behind me here. These are a mix of books that I have read and liked enough that I want to keep. Like most of these books that are facing outwards, I have read and really enjoyed, and that's why they're facing outwards. But I have all sorts of books on here that I have not read yet. And I run into this trap, which I think a lot of us do on BookTube. I put books on my shelves. I get excited about them when I buy them, when they're new and shiny. And then the next month, a whole bunch more new and shiny books come out. And those books are no longer new and shiny, but the ones that just came out are. And so I'm not always the best about making progress with what's on my shelves right away. So my goal for the next 3 months is to clear out 50 books from my bookshelves. Not necessarily clear out in the sense of getting rid of them. I'm going to read 50 books. If there's any of them that I want to keep, then I keep. And if I don't want to keep them, obviously I'm going to be donating them to little free libraries, my local library, wherever people need books. And my final goal is to make sure that I'm reading some books in Spanish. I have not been reading as much in Spanish lately, and it's probably because it takes more mental load for me. I have to read a little bit slower in Spanish than I do in English to make sure I'm comprehending everything. But that said, that's not really an excuse. And the only way for my linguistic abilities to continue to get better and to grow is to continue to educate myself in that language. And so I definitely want to make an effort to read in Spanish more. Also, as I continue to study Portuguese, I'd like to try to start reading books in Portuguese. I don't think that I could read like full-blown adult books, so maybe like middle grade or high school level books maybe, but definitely not like college level or above. So I'm gonna start hopefully maybe trying to slip in some Portuguese books as well. So that's everything. You have my channel updates and channel goals. You have my reading stats and my reading goals. Hopefully this was all interesting to you. I have some more details coming tomorrow in my quarter of the year freak out book tag, just in terms of specifics about like favorites, least favorites, things like that. If you enjoyed hearing about my goals and my statistics, hit the thumbs up button and comment down below. Let me know, what are your goals for the next 3 months? It could be personal goals, reading goals, channel goals, whatever. Tell me about it all. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell, so that you never miss a video and we can see each other again soon. Thank you so much for joining. Take care. Bye.